Hi everybody, welcome back to another episode of Divine Awakenings. I'm so excited to have a dear soul sister with me today, and she's really had a massive impact on my life, especially when I started to go deeper on my spiritual journey and started to really inquire about more of the occult side of the spiritual world and tarot and just understanding more around my awakening with having a Kundalini experience and she being able to articulate what was actually going on so I could understand it and not feel like I was crazy. And so she's become a really great friend. And yeah, thank you, Yvonne, for saying yes to coming on my podcast and for sharing your divine awakenings. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. It's so cool. Thank you. And well done with your little podcast.
Oh, thank you. It's so great to have you on. And so I love to open up with this question because it's something that I've been contemplating on and going within, and it's becoming deeper within my journey. And it's, what is your connection or relationship, would you say, to, that which they call creator, source, the divine, God? How would you kind of say that it plays out in your life?
Okay, well, that's for me, that's everything. I really feel a deep connection with the divine. And I feel grateful every day, to be honest, because that's just it's just a knowing. It's not a belief, right? So, and that came from, all the past, whatever, 8 years where I've been on this journey of aligning with my soul and understanding myself at a deeper level and connecting back into my true self, which is the soul, which automatically then developed a deeper connection with all that is God, source, energy. So that's just a part, like that's just part and parcel of literally everything I do. I just feel that. Like I said, it's not a belief system. It's just it's a knowing. It's a deep connection, but that's come from, that relationship has come from all of the journey so far, like I said. So without that, I wouldn't have such a sense of connection to the divine. So yeah, it's been my journey. That's why. So for me, it is everything. It's everything I do every day is that presence is felt. So
Mm.
yeah, it's beautiful, and I feel grateful for sure because I know how it feels not to have that. Because the first part of my life, I was very lost and disconnected. So I'm still very aware of what it felt like then and what it feels like now to have to be back, sort of back in the arms of that energy. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, so you really felt the difference between out of alignment and in alignment with that which
Exactly.
is the creator
Exactly.
source. And so let's
Yeah.
take a step back and go from the beginning of, was you always, you said before you was out of alignment. So what did that look like for you when you was out of alignment then?
Okay, yeah. So basically out of alignment, yeah, it's just, yeah, you're kind of disconnected from God, the divine. And I was disconnected from my soul path, and that I was living an inauthentic life up until 9 years ago now. Like maybe till I was about 40 actually. So 39, 40. So I was just living in a program, and I was conforming, and I was actually in the corporate world. And I every day, I mean, I always had I think I always felt there was more to our physical reality, but I wasn't, I wasn't around people that were spiritual or religious. They didn't really talk about anything like that, but I was always drawn to mysticism, but I kind of kept it a little bit secret, and I did sort of suppress it for a lot of my life because it was sort of shamed. um but so I was sort of living a life of escapism as well. I drank a lot, I partied a lot, trying to fill voids within me. I was obsessed with traveling as well because I was running away essentially. And so you know you can't run away from yourself though. So I kept like bringing that void with me wherever I went. And I have a very strong intuition, and every morning I would wake up and I would hear a voice, and my gut tell me, "You're in the wrong life. This is not your life," and I wouldn't listen. And yeah, I was kind of forced to listen, by a very kind of a traumatic event in my life. But you know, so basically, yeah, I was in corporate, which is the absolute polar opposite to what I'm doing now and what I was supposed to do. And yeah, you know, although it looked like I was really successful on the outside, I was bankrupt, spiritually bankrupt on the inside. And so I didn't listen. The signs were there. Now in hindsight, I can see my, you know, God, my higher self, trying to show me the way. Everywhere there were signs, but I didn't listen. And so that's where the universal laws came into play. And this is all very much in my astrology, my birth chart as well. What ended up happening was I mean, I was in a relationship at the time, and I got pregnant, which I was very shocked at. This is this is probably 10 years ago now. I yeah, I got pregnant, and I ended up having an ectopic pregnancy, and it burst inside me, and I nearly died. Basically, I had to be rushed to the hospital, and I was rushed into life-saving surgery. And um, when I came out of that operation, I was never the same again. Now, I didn't have this sort of like, you know, awakening as such, as like, you know, your typical sort of awakening. I just started to be aware of sort of the rat race more, or that I was sort of on this hamster wheel, and like everything became, I could see the inauthenticity of my life really clearly by that at that stage. And I started to ask questions. That's where I started to ask, what is going on? What is this all about? And why do we live in this sort of world? You know, and everyone's conforming, and I could really just see the sort of like matrix playing out. And it scared me, to be honest, because I had no tools to be able to cope with it as such, right? But it did, like that would have it started my path of self-discovery, because I started to question, like I said, but then what ended up happening was the universe started bringing in things to help me, and I started to awaken more to creativity as well. Like I had a real eye for design even back then. And but I never I was always in kind of financial world or corporate world, and I just always used to say, "Oh, I'm not creative." And then after that, I just started to allow myself to sort of tap into creativity, and with that, like it kind of led me on a journey. I ended up in Morocco, and I decided to open a little business called Bohemian Lifestyle. I was really craving, like my soul was starting to awaken within me, and the soul loves to create, no matter what that is, even if it's building a table, right, or you know, painting a picture. But creation is when you're creating, you're connecting into your true essence, right? So I had this overwhelming want to create or design something, and so that's when my first business was birthed, Bohemian Lifestyle, which was based on my love for my wanderlust, traveling, and just trying to be more of who I truly am. I didn't conform, and I didn't allow myself to be that person until that time where I was trying to fit into a box that I didn't fit into. And then finally I stopped trying to fit in. And that was on the back of that surgery. I started to realize I'm not like everyone else. And I started to get to know who I really was. And that's when I started to let go of the programming, And I started to just try to um, get more playful in what I really was about, and what my passions were, and I started to just lose some of the inhibitions and not caring what other people thought. Like that, that's where that began. And so I then my intuition started to heighten more. So even though it was a very tragic thing, because it was very, very traumatic, right? I mean, it was, that was something I thought I really wanted, was to be a mother, but I never actually felt like that was my path, if I'm being really honest. So I was very surprised that that did even happen. But I had this very strong sense afterwards that this was fated. Okay. And I said, it was seemed mad to me, because it was like this, it was horrendous what happened. Yeah, I had this very strong feeling like it's getting you on your path. And I had no backup. Right now I do. Now I have a birth chart that shows me why that happened. That, I was going through a very big lunar node transit at that time, which activated my whole chart, which was basically getting me off out of a path that was out of alignment onto a path that was in alignment with my soul path and with God. And so it was bringing me back to God and bringing me back to myself. But something deep down in me knew this. And so that's what gave me the strength to go through this transformation, right? So I was really kind of going from the caterpillar into the butterfly. That was the very beginning of that transformation. And so, but there was like so I was living in London at the time, and that felt just wrong. I always did, but it was like I couldn't deny it anymore. But that's really what happened in that year. Everything I was denying in myself before came up like a sledgehammer to be looked at. I couldn't run away from it. And so then, like, I had to start change. I literally had to start changing my whole life, because everything was inauthentic. And so it started with, I had to get out of, I couldn't cope with being in the city, and I had a real draw to get to a more rural setting. And this is where sort of my journey into mysticism began with, because I was actually hanging out with a group of Irish girls in London. And after a night out, we would go back to one of their houses, and they had angel cards. And I've never heard of these angel cards or oracle cards. And I was fascinated. And I was like, I had been into, like I said, I was very attracted to mysticism as a child, but I cut myself off of tarot. I closed it down in me. Even though I was going to secret readings or whatever. I just had a very, I didn't like at that time the way tarot readers were sort of, set in stone. They were, like you like, there was no such thing as free will, and I just shut that off. So this was my first time in years to open myself up to that kind of, occult stuff or whatever. So I was fascinated with this, and because the messages were very simple, but always were spot on and resonated. And my friends were kind of superstitious and saying, "No, like you can't buy your own deck." So when my birthday came along that year, my friend Millie gifted me a set of these angel cards, and every time I would pull a card, I would ask about, what should I do? Should I stay in London? I was kind of torn. I had a house in Ireland that was being rented out, and I was asking if I was torn between, should I move somewhere else? Should I stay in London and just move it in more rural setting, like outside London, or go to Brighton, or should I go back to Ireland? I was very resistant to move back to Ireland, because I was literally had ran away from it for most of my life. And anyway, these angel cards, I kept pulling the nature card, and it was saying, if you're drawn to a more rural setting, and my house is in a real rural setting, I was very drawn to coming back. And it kept saying, that's this your green light. I still have a picture of that card. And I kept pulling it over and over and over again. And it was like, oh my God, I have to listen to this. So this is where it started to come into, like, the whole, there's signs and synchronicities. This is where it began. Um, as soon as I made that decision, like, synchronicities became my everyday life. Signs, numbers, repeat, all of that's the 1111s. It's because I started to listen to that inner guidance, a higher guidance. And as each time I did that, because even opening my business, Bohemian Lifestyle, was was all this all happened kind of at the same time, by the way. And so
Did you understand when you're getting these signs that it was all connected to you? Say, did you know what it meant? Was you
I
aware
was,
of it at that point?
yes, yeah,
Yeah.
because I had this stronger awareness. I started to have more faith in the unseen,
Mm.
in the divine. Now, at the time, I couldn't be like, oh, I believe in God. And I wasn't that way. I wasn't that deeply in. I just had this awareness. There is something, oh, there's an unseen realm, and we're way more than what we're being told. And there is a divinity, and there is there is a soul. And I started to have this more knowing of that, but I didn't know, I didn't have that bigger picture. It was getting bigger, let's just put it that way. It was expanding. And so I had this knowing. I started talking to the universe at that time with these synchronicities. I started noticing synchronicities. And then I started to get more in control. I was trying to prove to myself as well that no, I was very skeptical. Okay, so let me just put that as well. There wasn't a massive knowing at that stage when I kind of think back. There was a feeling of, I think there is magic, and I think it's real, and I'm going to test this out, but I need to prove it to myself. I need tangible evidence, right? That's my Virgo moon. I'm not fully woo woo. I have to have some sort of science or tangible evidence behind that. And so I ended up moving back to Ireland, back to my house, and it was a very difficult transition, and I kind of lost a bit of. I was kind of getting, even though I'd kind of believed in the sort of the signs, I started to lose a bit of faith. But when I actually moved back to Ireland, because it was very difficult, and like moving back in time, and everyone had moved on, and it was like, what am I doing? And yeah, just a couple of very challenging things happened to me when I moved back here. And then I remember being here one night crying, going, what have I done? What is going on? And I just put out a sort of prayer to the universe, and was like, if there is a such thing as, if there is a spirit world, if if there is God, like, I need tangible evidence. I literally just put it out there. And then 2 weeks later, I had opened a pop-up shop in my town selling I was selling online, or selling like bohemian style homewares that I imported from Morocco, and that was basically bohemian lifestyle at that time. And I set up a pop-up shop here in my town, and I was in one Saturday, I was in the pop-up shop, and this woman came in, lovely woman, and that I felt like I'd known all my life. And I knew she wasn't going to buy anything. And we got into a very deep conversation straight away. She actually asked me if I did or if I knew of tarot, and I said to her, no, I don't like tarot, but I do angel cards. Actually, I was like, it was actually angel cards that kind of pushed me to move back to Ireland, as crazy as that sounded. And she's like, not at all. Like, that's my whole world, sort of thing. And she goes, why don't you like tarot? And I was like, I just don't like that this whole set in stone. It just doesn't feel good to me, these sort of predictive readings. And she's like, well, that you're right to feel like that, but that's not what tarot was meant to be about. Tarot is meant to be a tool to help you create your own destiny, and to help you, align with your soul path. And I was like, oh, straight away, I was like intrigued. It's like, this is so much better. And this felt right, So she said to me, let me prove it to you. Let me give you a free tarot reading. And I was still a bit hesitant. I was like, oh God, I don't know whether to trust her or whatever. But she was like, oh, let's meet like in a week's time, whatever. So I'm like, okay. I reluctantly said, okay. And anyway, she went off. And the next day she rang me, and it sort of freaked me out a bit, because I'm like, oh, like this is just, oh, I don't know, is she
I
weird?
think she's a bit pushy, That's a bit
Yeah,
strange,
yeah.
isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, because she was like, oh, can we push our reading forward? Can I do it like tomorrow? And I was like, oh my God. She goes, I've got a message from your spirit guides. And I'm just like, what the hell is a spirit guide? And I just thought, this is too much for me. And she's like, she goes, it's such a great message. I just need to tell you it as soon as possible. So I was like, okay. Reluctantly, I said yes. It was my intuition that was pushing me to say yes. My ego was like, I don't want nothing to do with this. Like it's hard enough, you know, I was losing, like I was disconnecting from people left, right, and center because I was different from since that operation, right? I was becoming more myself, which wasn't conforming, right? So I was kind of hesitant to do more stuff that was going to have me more alienated, right? So this is a big deal that I said yes to this woman. So anyway, thank God I did. She came to my shop the next day when I closed up. And basically, she came with a message. She told me what a spirit guide was, and it really made sense. As crazy as it was to my ego, it made sense to me at a deeper level. And then she gave me the message, and like it was like I still get shivers and goosebumps when I think about this because she said something nobody else would have known. No one could have known, and the information was it was so like insightful. It was detailed, and it was full of really good advice as well. And it just literally in that moment, my whole awareness, that's where I had another awakening or whatever, like an expansion of consciousness, awareness. It was like it literally within like a few minutes, my everything changed like so quickly. Whereas the other part of the transformation was quite slow. This one was like, pew, and like the whole world looked so different, like in another. But this time it was more on a like a mystical, magical, like the previous awakening was more like seeing the darkness, whereas this one was more seeing the light, right? I was like, oh my God, all the magic, you know, and all of these synchronicity took another, like they blew up. Um, they are you okay there?
I need to. I'm just going to pause it. I think my
Yeah, so the mystical was that came in tenfold then at that point with the not with the information she came to me with. It was like that was my seed that then spread it. Total awareness, total like I know all this. I know about spirit. I know that we have a guardian angel. You know, I know we're divine, like we have a divine spark, and I like it was just that absolute no longer a belief. That's where it became the knowing. Yes, it was that point. She said she did a tarot reading with me at that stage, and I had been juggling my career in the corporate world in London. I took sort of a step away from London. I moved to Ireland, but I was still working for the company in London as a virtual assistant. But they were giving me an ultimatum to come back to London or I would lose my job. I was originally the agreement was I would stay in Ireland for at least a year anyway and work remotely. But then they brought that forward. So I was in a process of trying to make a decision whether to stay in Ireland or move back with and have keep my job in London. And I was juggling both my little business with my full-time job in London. And she with her tarot reading brought that crossroads up very clearly. And she was saying you're in like this crossroads you're at now. If if you go with the unknown, where the one you're actually more drawn to now, that path, that's going to take you fully onto your soul path. She goes, if you don't, you're kind of taking a step backwards, but you'll get there in the end. But this will get you there quicker. So I was like, oh my God, and that just gave me the confidence to give my notice in, to fully embrace being self-employed, and I basically ended up going. I turned into a self-employed virtual assistant with Bohemian Lifestyle. That was sort of my leap of faith, but that was terrifying for me because I was always an employee. The thoughts of getting your own clients was daunting. I was full of insecurities. This is before I went on, did a lot, like started my journey of healing and trauma recovery and inner child healing. So I was full of insecurities about myself, lacked confidence, very low self-esteem. However, that tarot reading gave me the courage to take that leap of faith. And that just set me off on an amazing journey of self-discovery, understanding my psychology, shadow work, learning tarot. Like she said to me, "You're going to be a professional tarot reader," and I'm like, "You're insane! Now you've like lost it." Um, I was like, "No, I don't even like none of my family are into this at all, and there's no psychic stuff or abilities in my family." And she's like, You will develop all of that. You are very intuitive. You just don't trust yourself. But she goes, you will go on a self-discovery journey now, and you with that you'll heal the parts of yourself that are holding you back and that are, that are telling you a lie, basically. And that was exactly what happened. I got this insatiable appetite to learn everything I could about myself. And I did resist the tarot thing because I was still conforming a bit, trying to fit in with my family and that. And I knew that if I really embraced that fully, that was probably going to end up distancing me from them, which is exactly what ended up happening. But thankfully, I was too much aware of my soul paths that nothing was going to stop the inevitable once I got onto it that fully. However, I did sort of, huh?
So was it like you'd expanded your awareness to the point where you knew you couldn't go back, kind of?
That was the point of no return. Up till
Mm,
that reading, there was a point of return back to the old.
mm.
That's what she was saying. She goes, it's for you, so it'll keep coming back around, right? That energy would keep coming to try to get me back. Because in my chart, it's very clear I was meant to be using occult tools to help humanity it was very much part of my calling in this lifetime. So even if I didn't take that leap then and went back to the safety of my, the corporate world or whatever, it would have something else would have come back in to get me aligned with it. So it's like what's free won't pass you. It will keep coming. You can keep saying no though, right? You've got free will, but it will keep coming around is my point. And so
So does
yeah,
it
that was
become like the choiceless choice in the end? Like,
yeah.
because the universe is going to like start extracting things from your life if you don't say yes. Yeah.
You'll start to it makes things very difficult. And that's where you start to suffer as well. You start trying to hang on to something that's not for you, a path that's not for you. That's equals suffering. That equals out of alignment. That equals disconnection from source, God, your divinity. So that's what, like, yeah, because the most fulfilled a human can be is when they're in alignment with their purpose, their true calling. That brings you back into yourself. That develops a connection inward, which then leads back to the talk about God. So, anyone that's doing their calling, they feel a divinity in things because they are truly connecting to that, to source energy when you're following your calling. Even and those that don't really know what they believe in, they feel something, right, of that. So that's basically brought me on to my calling. Yeah. So that was all the whole design, like so bohemian lifestyle at the beginning is very important because that helped me tap into the world of design. So at that point, it was interior design, but design also was a big part of my calling. Okay, alongside divination, using occult tools like tarot and astrology to help humanity, coaching, healing. That's all in my chart. So what? That woman was a psychic medium tarot reader, by the way, which I forgot to mention, Fiona. What she did that time with the reading was she helped to, yeah, bring me onto that path, which then led to all those things. It led to, it led to me doing more work in Bohemian Lifestyle, which opened up more creativity within me. It helped me do inner child healing, which unlocked a huge amount of creativity. That's when after I did inner child healing, I started designing my own jewelry collection. And then, yeah, and then I started to, I was very, like I said, hesitant. The whole doing tarot reading, I really tried my best not to do it because, like I said, family, blah, blah, blah. But I gave into it 6 months out, around 6 months after that reading. I was just one day I just couldn't I just couldn't stop myself. Had to go buy a set of tarot cards, and the first card that I pulled when I opened the pack was the High Priestess collection, or High Priestess. And so I was mesmerized by her. Like it was like, oh, and another awakening and an awakening and an awakening was actually that card. But it's like that archetype, it just, that set me off on the whole road of coaching, of delving into tarot. I started studying tarot. I did a course on tarot, and I started to do tarot reading, and it also helped me do way more healing, psychology, like, learning more of psychology, subconscious minds, then the shadow, all of that came then. And then I knew what I had to do. It was like from that card, I knew what I had to do. And it was like, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but this is what I'm meant to do. So it was like, I'm in it. I was like, in a year's time, I'm going to change my business, Bohemian Lifestyle, into a coaching with tarot. And I'm going to, I was starting to do all energy healing as well. So I was like, I'm going to bring healing into it, and I'm going to help, and I'm going to teach, because I was doing all these, I was doing all this healing work on myself. And I thought I'm going to teach, and I was going through massive transformations. I was getting my self-esteem, self-worth, self-love. I was learning to put in boundaries. I was cutting cords with people that didn't serve my path. Like, it was huge, the amount of transformations and changes I in that year was phenomenal. Um, and I had, for the first time in my life, had purpose and felt really good in myself. And I stopped caring what other people thought about me. I spent so much time on my own, and I wasn't afraid of that. And it was just amazing. It was just, I was really fulfilled. And that's then where I had this start, really develop that deeper connection with, the inner world, with God. That was, the more I did all that healing work, the more I could feel that energy within and without. The more I had just such a knowing, even death was just not an issue, right? That was just, that's just a transformation, a transition. And yeah, it was just so, all the fears I used to have in life were just dissolved, and that's with that connection. So that just got deeper and deeper and deeper. Um, and then I just grew and evolved, and I got really, tarot became an extension of me, as you know. And then I was like, I need to teach people this, because like I was using it like my own coach, life coach, business coach, spiritual coach. And so I thought, if I can teach people how to connect into these cards, they can then use these cards to connect more into their paths and their purpose, and make the right choices to keep them healthy, and living a more fulfilled life. So like, it was doing that for me, and I was hoping that, my objective was to help people to connect it to this archetypal language, so that they could then open this way out within themselves, and align more with their soul path. So basically everything I was doing was the same objective. That was to help people get to come back to themselves, to connect into their divinity, to connect to God, and to, live with purpose and follow their calling.
And would you say that, you had to do the inner work, the inner child healing work, all of that first before you could really step into that, because you had to experience,
Yeah.
the letting go, the all of these insecurities. And as you were saying that, what I was kind of feeling was, it was like all of these, where we'd given our power away to other people, circumstances, the external world, society. The more you started to take your power back, the more of your soul, these kind of fragments of your
Yeah.
soul, started to come back, and you started to become more whole within yourself.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
yeah, would you say
Exactly.
that's what was happening?
100%. So see, all of these things all sort of happened together, simultaneously. So, but I knew it was like my intuition was getting much stronger. So I was making all the right choices in order to reclaim all those fragmented parts of myself so I can become more whole and more connected within. It was a necessary, that was literally as I started to, the first part of that journey after having that tarot reading in the shop that day was the healing part. That came first, not tarot. So that's really important. I just knew I have to learn about the subconscious mind. I need to, I need to do energy healing. And I, like it was being brought to me. I had no idea about inner child then, or I mean, to me actually, I had heard of it, and I just thought it was hippy dippy, like pseudoscience, ridiculous. Yeah, woo woo. It's just like I had no time for it. And that's why I really had to, swallow my ego there, or swallow my, humble pie, because I realized how powerful it was. But that was being brought to me again, the universe was bringing these things into my awareness because I was so open. I wanted to bring back all these fragmented parts. I wanted to be whole. I knew I wasn't. I knew I had loads of wounding from childhood, and through actually a tarot reading, which with that woman Fiona, she was also a medium. She connected to my dad through like her mediumship, but then came out more the message in a tarot reading she did shortly after, sort of getting channeling information from my dad. She was able to present it through the tarot reading that I what like I had a real desire for a healthy relationship like anyone else, a romantic relationship, but I just I failed at that all my life. I kept attracting emotionally unavailable men. And I just thought I was really unlucky with men. I just thought it was just bad luck. And I was putting that out there as I was, helping my her healing and becoming more aware. I was really desiring a healthy relationship. And she did that all came through that reading. A message from my dad saying, you're not going to get that because you've got a lot of subconscious wounding, unresolved wounding that is blocking that. And the only way you can heal that is by going into the subconscious. And so you need to do stuff like inner child healing. And I'm like, oh my God. And what was so strange, the day before that reading, I went to a Kundalini yoga workshop in Dublin. I was just drawn to go there. When I got there, it was all about inner child healing, and I'm like, I don't need this. I had a great childhood. I had an amazing relationship with my dad. Like, but only what I remember. My memories were that, but there was a lot. Like he was a great dad, but he was not. He was absent, and he had a lot of trauma, childhood trauma himself. So even when he was physically there, he was away, yeah, emotionally not there. And so it began like that. And then my siblings were not, my brothers were not, very, they dismissed me. They were emotionally unavailable as well. So my whole childhood was basically love for men was, that you're ignored or dismissed, or they're not emotionally available to you. So that's in my psyche, in my subconscious, that's what was playing out. And that was what my dad, through Fiona, through the tarot, was trying to get to me, that I needed to go on that journey. But anyway, in that workshop, I'm there doing this thing or whatever with the inner child techniques, and I really thought this is just wasted on me. And then that reading the next day was like all about inner child healing, and I'm like, oh my God, that was another synchronicity. So I put those two things together, right? And so yeah, that brought me then on this big journey of learning about the subconscious mind, learning about the inner child. And then I was introduced to John Bradshaw's work, which he is amazing. I use that in my own so I do inner child healing programs now myself. And my program is inspired by his program. I just have customized it, and I put tarot and astrology into it as well. But that led on to that journey. And so that was very much needed for me to, to like that, to reclaim all those fragmented parts of myself, and to be able to let go of looking outside for happiness or for validation and all of that kind of stuff. So yes, that was without a doubt, to be honest with you, that was the most important part of my journey to get me from back then to here.
Mm.
without a doubt, without
Yeah,
a
'cause
doubt.
it opened up the next phase of your next journey, didn't it? And you had to
Yeah,
go through that before that could open up, right?
100%. Like that opened, let's just put it this way, if I just done tarot and not done any of that, that would be great. But I would have been hitting a dead end and a roadblock. But because I did those things together, they were so powerful for from me aligning. Because you have to have courage as well to align with your soul path, because it's going to be out of your comfort zone. And it's gonna require you to do something you've never done before, and it needs you to face your fears.
Mm.
And so yeah, and so basically, and that I had to do, all my calling required me to be courageous, and really required me to feel the fear and do it anyway. So had I not done reclaim those parts myself, I wouldn't have been able to step fully into my calling at all. In hindsight, no.
Because
So
the fear would have been too strong, and sometimes it can be
yes,
debilitating, can't it, fear?
100%. Like, all I had massive fear of, like even just speaking in a group, even a group of friends, I had fear of, let alone like doing a workshop or, speaking in front of a group of strangers. Like I had fear because I had so much insecurity about myself. I just didn't feel I knew anything, or I didn't feel good enough, right? So, or what do I know? What does little old me know, Um, and so yeah, I wouldn't have there's all the stuff that needed me to have confidence, and needed to have me to have to be sure of myself, right? And confident within myself. So yes, there are this is why I'm really passionate about, not just about teaching tarot, and introducing people to these modalities. It's also the healing, like inner child healing, shadow work. I'm so passionate about that because I see that, like, we can no there's no transformation without going back into the parts of the psyche and reclaiming those parts. There's
Mm.
no there's no real long-term transformation without doing that. You'll
Mm.
keep coming back, you'll keep coming back to the same stuff, and you won't be able to look at it with different eyes. So you remain stuck there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
And so with the tarot, obviously, I did your tarot course and that kind of, which is amazing. And then I messaged you. I think you moved from Bali, which is where you discovered, you met somebody where you
Yeah.
collaborated, and then you did the course together, which obviously was all synchronized as well. So another part of, your path. And then you just moved to Brighton, I believe, and then you put about a course. As like I was drawn to it because I'd had in my kitchen. I just had this like aha moment. It's like, oh my god, I can do tarot, and it came out of nowhere. But I, like you, I resisted it for ages. It was just like, and then I saw your post, and then we were just chatting, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to do your course, and then we met. And then it was kind of like we just became really good friends after that, which is really amazing. And
It was so
um,
cool.
yeah, and
I,
it was
I
like
actually, sorry, go on.
it was kind of like everything that you had gone through, I was at my beginning stages. So you were kind of like holding my hand, like leading the way and going, yeah, it's okay. This is part of it. And so I remember, and I'll never forget this, one of the things that you said to me, and I've said this to a few friends, and when you start to feel your feelings, because we've been suppressing them, because you're not meant to feel and hide. I remember I was starting to become really angry, or I was feeling a lot of anger in my body. And I was like, why am I so angry? And you said something I'll never forget. You said, you're not angry, you've just suppressed all of this anger. Now you're at a place now where you're actually feeling it all. And it's like, so it's called coming up to the surface because it's all being ready to be healed. And so it just helped me just accept what was happening instead of judging or
Yeah.
making it
Or
wrong.
pushing it back down again.
Yeah.
Like, you can't, if you don't feel it, you don't heal it. That was my main mantra. And that is a good sign. It's so many of us, because the shaming of anger, especially, there's
Mm.
so much repressed anger. And I believe that's the biggest cause of cancer, is repressed anger. It's the biggest cause of disease, for sure. And that's what inner child healing helps with massively, is bringing all that repressed anger up to be felt. So Yes, and so with me being able, and I like that, I was only a few steps ahead of you, but I was able to mentor. We all need our mentors and guides and teachers, and sometimes you'll be the mentor, and then sometimes you'll be the student. But we're all helping each, guiding each other home. Really, that's
Mm.
really what it's all about. But that's it. It's like knowing, because if you didn't have that sort of guidance, you would have just pushed it all back then again. But what was happening to you? You were healing. Your inner child was coming out to feel all that, to be allowed. You were allowing. It was finally allowed to feel that anguish and anger that it needed to feel because of spiritual wounding. Of the I amness of the soul. So yeah, so that I'm just really glad. But I was really drawn to Brighton back then, and I didn't. And we spoke about this before, but I now have more awareness of that time in my life than I did probably back then. But I was so drawn to Brighton, and I had another reason at that time to what my guess to why, but I was wrong at that time. But yeah, it was so. I was just like I had no choice but to go to Brighton. I mean, I went from Bali to Brighton, like so. And I had a choice to stay in Bright or Bali, but I didn't. It's like I had no choice. There was
Yeah.
something pushing me, strong, like guiding me, and I had no choice, even though I thought I had a choice. I didn't. And that brought me there. And I really, I know it was because I was meant to meet you there. I
Mm.
was meant for the next part of your journey. Like I was sort of planting some seeds for you that was sort of needed for your next part of your journey, right? So,
Mm.
when I really, really truly believed, and it was like as soon as that was done, like I was dead, like I know I was not brought back. I didn't have that draw back to Brighton, right? It was like, but I had to be there at a certain time, for a certain period of time, right? So,
Yeah.
we're all connected.
All
We're all in
divine
it.
timing.
Yeah, was it 100? It was totally divine. I look back 100%. I believe that that was a big part of my reason for Brighton at that time. I do believe that.
And with the tarot, what are the kind of things that really stand out for you that's just the tarot has helped um, set the path for the decisions that you've made? Was it, you said before the high priestess was like really like eye-opening and another level of awareness, but has there been anything where you've gone, okay, I'm going to do the cards around this, and then it steered you and it's just been, oh my God, the cards have just highlighted something that's been quite profound in your journey?
Oh my God, that's a big question for me because
There's probably quite a lot, but there may
so
be loads, but
there's so many. Like, where, even in terms of like my just even recently with say my jewelry business, right? Or even like just even investments or where I would have went all in with something and then like the cards will guide me to like hold back and then I won't do it. And then that thing, I get the feedback as to why it was better I didn't go all in with that thing, right? That has happened. Like the tarot for me in my bit because I have created a lot of things business wise and some like products and whatever, and it's been an amazing business guide to coach to me, and I've avoided a lot of I've avoided like I've dodged bullets. Let's just put it that way for sure.
mm,
But like in terms of it's also guided me in its way of, showing me, just, yeah, it's be like maybe taking a trip there and then I don't do that. And then again, I see why that was, oh, thank God I didn't do that. There's so much of all of that. I'm just trying to think, I mean, there's more profound things. It's like more, I suppose, like mundane level I've seen it more in the day to day, like, oh my God. But let me have a think. There's
I think I remember one where I was asking you where you went to Zanzibar. Was it Zanzibar?
yeah,
And I was like, you was like, oh, the cards telling me to go to. I was like, how are they like, how is that played out? And you were like, you kept getting the sun card because you were thinking about it. And I
yeah,
thought, and then you just, and this is the level of trust that you have where it's like,
yeah,
got that sun card, and you was like, I'm going.
Yeah, exactly. I would know. Or like I think I got judgment and sun, right? So that's the judgment really shows a higher calling and it's like with going to Brighton. Like I mean the cards would have showed me stuff about Brighton then. There's a higher calling involved in this. It's not just about you, Yvonne, right? There's more your so your calling is and your soul path's connected to other souls that you need each other in order to do certain things. That's exactly, and thanks for reminding me of that. That's exactly what happened with Zanzibar too. So I needed to, and that was like where I was in Brighton, and then suddenly I'm like, oh, I have to go, right? And that's like the same thing with Bali. And Bali, in another example, I mean, I was absolutely loving living in Bali, and because that was back in 2021, um, and then suddenly the cards are showing, not you have to go now, and I'm like, no, no. But I went because I trust. And it was like the chariot card. It's like, yeah, it's time to go. And then I'm like, and then it would show me all the signs. I was like, where do I go?
Mm.
And it started showing, there was a literal sign for Brighton in Bali. Remember I was telling you about that?
Yeah, I
My
do. Yeah.
friend even was like, you're a lot like my friend in Bali was like, there's no way you're exaggerating. And then we were on our mopeds going off for a weekend in Bali. And then we're stuck at the lights and there was the sign for Brighton. Like that is just not a Balinese name, right? So, but then I would open a book and Brighton, be all about Brighton. They're going on holidays to Brighton. I watched the movie. Yeah, they live in Brighton. So that was the universe. Because I put it, I was like, I didn't see it through the cards where I knew it was like time to leave Bali, but I didn't know where I needed to go. And then I put it out there, meditation, show me my guardian angel, where do I need to go? And then there it was, all in everything I picked up, Brighton, Brighton, Brighton. And then I felt it, oh my God, I feel a real calling to go to Brighton. No idea why. And it all worked out perfectly, and even obviously meeting you there, but also I was really able to go fully in with my one-to-one healing programs, if you remember.
Mm.
That really, that was my that was my main source of income and that was my profession. I did my full-time job, right?
Mm.
And Brighton gave me the opportunity to do that. So, that kind of set me up to do all that sort of one-to-one work. So yeah, there was that happened and then in like stuff happened in Bali that was like when I left, I'm like, oh my God, thank God I left actually, and with Zanzibar, I see now in hindsight, connections there. Actually, one of my friends from Zanzibar, Elle, is now, it turns out her dad lives in Ireland and he lives only 15 minutes up the road. She's now come here, and we're connecting. And it's like just all these synchronicities there. But so the cards have, yeah, because I've had such trust. And why have I had such trust? Because first of all, I let myself have faith in the unknown. And then secondly, they proved to me why I should have faith because it would show me. I would always get feedback. Or it might be like a heads up, hey, be careful of that person. Their intentions, aren't what they may seem. Take a step back, put a boundary up. And lo and behold, I would be shown very quickly why that was a very important decision to make. So it happens all the time, all the time. Like there's just no way I could possibly go against the guidance in the cards
Mm.
because of everything I've experienced.
Cards don't lie, do
Oh
they?
my God, they
My
don't.
experience, they really
No,
don't.
they don't. So it might be that you may read them incorrectly, but if you're a good reader, you don't want to go against that guidance. So it's for me, it's when if you're connect, you're not coming from fear doing a tarot, you're connecting to the higher guidance, your higher mind. That's your guardian angel, whatever you want to call it. That's what you're connecting into. Once you're neutral and you're centered, because otherwise you may be connecting to your shadow, if you're in fear. But once you're not neutral and centered and you're getting guidance from the tarot, you are connecting into that part of the higher version of yourself. So you want
Yeah.
to be listening to that guidance. And I knew that from the early days, right? So that's why I was always
Mm.
like, oh my God, I'm gonna
Yeah.
listen. Yeah.
Oh, I know you've got to, and you've been through a lot in your life, especially it's even in the time that I've known you, and I'm like, it's been quite, there's been a lot of trauma and
Yes.
traumatic events that have happened that has helped you gain so much inner strength.
Yeah.
And you've been quite an advocate, in the times with lockdown, and sharing your voice, and
Yes.
not feeding into the fear porn. And even when you were met with a lot of negativity from people, from your family, pretty much being ostracized from your hometown in Ireland,
Yes. Yeah.
that meant you kind of like felt you couldn't go back, but
Yeah.
you had a calling to go back to Ireland, and you couldn't quite understand it at the time, and you thought you'd never go back there. And I don't know if that's something that you want to talk
Yeah.
about,
Yeah.
but it's got you to the strength, the inner strength, and obviously, and where you are now as well.
Yeah, and actually, this ties into that your question with the tarot and like taking the guidance. That's another example, actually. Exactly. I mean, I spoke out, and wow, was that very traumatic? But I would never ever regret it. But it that yeah, it just caused yeah, it caused an estrangement there, and I definitely I never thought I'd move back, and I was very much putting roots in Brighton at the time, but yeah, so I then I mean the very thing I was sort of speaking out about sort of happened to me, right, with my mum. She died suddenly, and um that brought me back. Like I was coming back for a holiday or for Christmas holidays, and that brought me back here. I was sorry, I was visiting her for Christmas holiday, and she died during the Christmas holidays suddenly. Um, and I was like, I was getting I kept doing cards, and I mean, I was absolutely grief stricken and heartbroken. And what really, what I wanted to do was run a million miles away, go back to my life in Brighton. It was because it was so overwhelmingly heartbreaking. Okay. So I was doing my cards, like want my cards just say, just, pack up and get out of here. I was estranged from my brothers, it was so unbelievably painful and traumatic for me. It was sort of on my own here in a place that I cut all cords with, I thought. And my mum was the only really thing that had me back here, and she died. So, because my dad had passed a few years before that as well. But so it was very hard, and I just wanted to get back to Brighton. And then the cards kept saying, no, stop planning to move back. And I'm just like, oh my God, no, no. And I still wouldn't. I was like, it's just because I'm not doing it because I'm doing it in grief. And I kept checking, checking, checking. And then I went out I went for my first walk after got the energy after my mum passed. And I kept saying I meant to say that earlier on, like the start of the journey. I decided with spirit that I would decide my number. That would be my green light number, which was 222. So when I was seeing all these repeating numbers, I said, no, I don't know what they mean. That's before I knew numerology. And I was like, I made a pact in meditation with my guides. This is back, 8, 9 years ago, that 222, I'd be shown repeatedly if it was the right thing for me. Anyway, I was on just after my mum died. I was out walking, and there's the cars were going past. And I noticed on the regs in Ireland in 2022, the regs became the start of it was 222. So to someone else, I think what so what? But I was like, oh my God, all the cards I was seeing were like 222, 222, and because this is like the end of 2022. And I'm just like, I just knew, I'm like, oh my God, that's my green light that I'm meant to be here, even though this seems insane. And that's why the cards keep saying to me. But literally everywhere I went that day at 222s, not just on the regs, it just was like on steroids. And so that gave me the courage then. It was like, right, let's try and look at this from a different perspective. Something's going on here. You're still on your path. Like you're still in alignment. You're still connected to God, to your soul. All is working out perfectly, as horrendous as that feels right now. That's how I just changed my perspective. And I knew because I have such faith in my in these tools are just an extension of me. It's just an extension of my intuition. It's not outside of me, right? And so I have faith in all of that. I have faith in me and I have trust in myself. And I knew it's going to be okay. You know, as it was horrendous. Like I had a battle here with, with my brothers were just completely cut me out, and that was a very like an intense, horrendous year. Everything was like the rug was pulled from underneath me, and I was also trying to run a business as well, and obviously I had to take a lot of time off, and it was another part of a lot of shadow work, a lot of going right into the descent, right into the depths of my psyche. And I had to, I had to really do more inner child healing, because then realized I had a lot of wounding from my siblings. That's where that started to come up more within me. And that was all just being mirrored back. They're wounded themselves. So no judgment at all. That's their path. But what they showed me was all the stuff I still needed to heal inside myself. So I spent that whole year when my mum died doing loads of work on myself. And that's where I really started to, stand in my power. Like it was like I had that, I thought I had faced a lot of demons, but that was the year where I was like, oh my God, the biggest dragons and demons presented themselves, right? So, and all my sense of security was gone. So my biggest support system was gone when my mum passed. Like and I really did have to grow up, which I was already doing with all the work I had been doing. But then it was real, like, this is it. And it was as horrendous. Again, all of the horrendous times in my life turned out to have the biggest gifts in them, without a doubt. They just up leveled me. It's like they were rites of passage. And because I never lost myself in these tragedies, right? I actually went into the darkness, found the gift, and came out stronger. That's what ended up happening. But I have got a lot of Scorpio and 12th house energy, which is that Phoenix rising. So
When you
that
say you never lost yourself, what do you mean by that?
I never I never like fell into that victim consciousness. I'm
Right.
not saying I felt my grief, but I didn't let it define me and what I was doing. I felt the feelings, and I pulled myself up out of that, and I never let it, and I never became a victim. I actually used it to understand myself and everything more. And I used it to fuel me into a better future, basically. So yeah. So that was then. So that ended up, once I got through that year, got stronger. I was already studying astrology, but that year I really delved into the world of astrology, because I wanted to understand my psychology even more, and just really understand my path even more. And that what meant more awareness of the why these traumatic things were happening, because there was way more traumatic things, not just those things, in the whole of my life. I definitely experienced way more traumatic things than the average person by a long shot. And I wanted to understand that a lot more. So that really brought me more into astrology. So I started to study astrology, do a professional astrology course, and yeah, that just opened up another world of understanding of psychologically. And then that's, yeah, so I decided to bring that into my services as well. And then I set up I moved back into my house here in Ireland, and I just flourished from then onwards. My business started to grow, and I created a new jewelry collection, which is just all rooted in. It's
I'm
called
wearing right now. I get a lot of compliments on this, and I've got the ring as well.
Amazing, the third eye. Exactly. And I started to introduce little tarot cards into my collection. So this is the High Priestess. I have the Empress. I have the Strength card, the Magician. I brought in all the tarot symbolism, astrology, my Celtic symbolism as well. Like, that's we're very rooted in ancient wisdom and spirituality here in Ireland, which I'm really has I've opened up to that and connected that more than ever before, which has been amazing. I just absolutely have fallen in love with Ireland. And I never thought I'd say that, because I spent my whole life running away. but I've really, the more connected to my true essence, the more I have connected to my land, to the land of Aru, to my homeland. And that has just opened up more healing as well, or opened up more in me and more creativity and more has helped heal me more, you know. And so, and now, and interestingly enough, Pluto rules Ireland, and Pluto is the planet of transformation, death, rebirth. And like the Pluto transformations, if you can survive them, that's where you will really step into your true potential. It gets rid of all that's stagnant and is not in alignment with truths. And that can be very painful. But if you survive that, then you're on to your most highest expression of yourself. So interestingly, that I got pulled back to where Pluto rules, for me. But I needed that part in order for the next part of the transformation. And that's what's happened now. But we never stop evolving. But it's like as I, allow myself to go into the descent, just face all the shadows from the past, well, the less they come back and the stronger I get and the more I'm rooted in my true essence. And I'm embodying, it's embodiment of my soul. More light is coming through. So that's where I'm at now. It's been a journey.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And I think, your journey is just, it really kind of will help to show like it is like the grassroots, isn't it? Like, it's so people can have these spontaneous huge awakenings and then they transform, but most of us it doesn't happen like that.
No,
It's
no.
commitment, it's
Yeah.
hard work, it is going to the descent and
Yeah.
beyond the depths of the waters to come out. And it's really trusting, having faith and surrendering and letting go of the things that just aren't serving you anymore. And it
Mm.
isn't always easy, but when you go to the darkness and you get experience the light on the other side,
It's
like
it's so worth it.
it's magic, isn't it?
It's really magic, and it's like the deck card, which is ruled by Pluto in tarot. That it's that energy. When the deck card shows up, when you're going through big changes, tough changes, that on the other side, you look back on that was well worth it. All that pain for that change was so worth it to where you are now. That's the real awakening. But
Mm,
you have to go through that darkness for a real awakening
yeah,
because until you do that, you're still operating from the false self.
yeah,
You
yeah,
need to go through a metamorphosis, and some people are doing, they do it very, very traumatic events. Their whole world collapses and they go through it like very quickly. But most people, it's slow and it's gradual, and it's different for different people. It's a personal journey, but for
yeah.
most it is like that. It took all of that, and mine had had all of that, the slowness, taking my time with my healing journey, stopping, going back to it, and then I had those big catastrophic events as well thrown in for good
Yeah.
measure. But I wouldn't all of it. I look back on. I'm so glad all that happened.
Mm,
Because I see it needed to happen in order for me to get where I am now.
yeah. Which
Yeah.
is ultimately helping others, isn't it? Service
Yeah.
to others.
Yeah, no, 100%. I am not, I was my chart and my cards when I did soul purpose readings years ago very clearly showed me that. My birth chart shows me that I am not here to perpetuate the old systems. I'm here for the new. I'm here, like one astrologer said to me a couple of years ago, you're like a doula as sorts, but you're bringing people from the old consciousness to the new consciousness. You're on the healing journey, like like from the old paradigm to the new.
Mm,
That's spot on. Like that is exactly it. And I know because I've done it myself. In order to do that, you do need to look at your own shadow, because it's the shadow in all of us that has created this society, which is not a society that is a healthy society, or it's an anti-Christ society, an anti-spirit society.
mm.
So we're changing that though, thankfully.
Yeah, change starts from within, right?
100%. It is all of as within, so without.
Exactly.
Sure.
And so if you would like Lee, and thank you so much for sharing all of that. And I know it's going to help so many people because there's so many golden nuggets along the way of, how you can really start to trust your guides, the synchronicities, and you ask and you will get the signs. And go and buy
Exactly.
some tarot cards, go and do Yvonne's course, and that's going to really help you because I did it and absolutely I would not it's helped me so much in my life for sure. So thank you for even
I,
creating that course and following your intuition for
yeah,
doing that because it helps so many people. We probably don't truly know how much we are helping people
yeah.
until we go, and transition to the other side. And so
Exactly. Exactly. And that's the thing. We don't. The main thing is you don't like we don't that's none of our business though, right? Unless someone
yeah.
wants to share that.
Mm.
That it's just it's putting things out there and like yeah, and just even to help one person. And
Mm.
that's the thing with the tarot. Even just one person, then I've done my job, right? And you've done your job, and that's the way it is. But yeah, no, it's been an amazing journey. I'm just so glad that tarot connected us as well, and even how much I mean, you were also destined to be a tarot reader for sure. So
Yeah, it's I just love the tarot. It's really helped me in my life, and I know how much it's helped other people as well. So
yeah.
yeah, it's amazing. And so just to summarize, what would you say would be your parting kind of like words to those watching today, or that you just want a takeaway or something that they can start to do today that's really going to help them, whether you feel like it is doing the inner child work or what are your parting words?
Well, I would say, well, first off, would be and put doing sort of an energy protection every day. And I like because it's a simple thing. You don't need to even go buy tarot cards or whatever, or sign up to do an inner child healing program. Like getting into doing obviously meditation. I'm sure anyone that's watching your channel is probably well into all of that. But I would emphasize the energy protection because we have, there's so many, there's so much influence energetically. And that simple daily routine of clearing your energy, and just, you can visualize that whatever way you want. You can see a bright, divine light coming down from the higher worlds or whatever, uh, from your higher self, and just seeing it cleansing and clearing like energetic waves coming over and cleansing and clearing your energy field, and then placing a shield of golden divine protection, and then grounding yourself into the earth, right, every day. Just simple things like that. Like it's the simple things are the big things. And I think, and also this sending back, there's a lot of projection right now, and that's because the shadows coming up, the unconscious shadows coming up to be seen, not just our own shadow. And so a lot of that equals projection outwards from people, which projecting to us. So in my little energy meditation, clearing meditation, I send that projection back to sender, and I bring back my own projection. So I'll call back my projections because we're projecting as well. So it just helps to lessen the chaos in the world because we're going through a massive transition and transformation, and there's a lot of chaos as we know. So we can help that within ourselves and outside by doing stuff like that. And I would say doing doing the healing work is just it's non-negotiable now. Finding someone or guide teacher that can help you connect into the subconscious healing, connect to your inner child, get a book on it, do a course on it. um do whatever works for you, but start understanding that concept of a wounded inner child. Extremely important. Start to learn about your subconscious mind. It's the more we can understand about our psychology, and even just knowing the subconscious mind, you don't need to be a psychologist, just learn the subconscious mind is going to be so powerful. um Connected to your inner child, healing your wounded inner child, and develop your intuition, which tarot is very good to do that. You do not need to be psychic to learn tarot. Tarot actually helps you to turn on the psychic abilities. It helps you develop the intuition. Even just gazing at these archetypes, and I'm just gazing at the judgment card there, that helps to awaken that within your own psyche. Archetype, that's the language of the subconscious mind. and the soul. So even just working with these pictures on the archetypal symbols helps to activate and strengthen intuition. And yeah, so they would be my tips.
And are you open to pulling a couple of cards for those watching to see what wants to come up?
Yeah.
Right now for those, then give everybody a little message, maybe with something
Yeah.
that can help them, or whatever feels right for you to ask.
Yeah, sure. So we'll just get some guidance for Sarah's listeners. So yes, so let's just get a message, a message of guidance, see what comes up. I'll just pull two cards. Okay, interesting. So I've got the Nine of Pentacles and the Five of Swords. So Nine of Pentacles, this is very much about the protection again, by the way. This is sort of reiterating what I said at the beginning there, about protecting our energy, releasing projections, because she's very much centered and protected in her own energy, and she's letting go of any sort of distortions, negativity within her fields. That's because she's doing the inner work herself, and she's protecting her energy. She's got boundaries around her as well, and she's walking away from any this kind of chaos, conflict, card of conflict. That's all about doing that inner work. You cannot be in this energy if you're full of unresolved wounding in your subconscious mind. So she's done the inner work. She's got into her own shadow. She's doing the shadow work, but she's protecting her energy. She's putting strong boundaries around herself. That's very important too. If you're too open to everyone and anyone that and they're haven't got your best interests at heart, like that can drag your own energy down, right? So boundaries is in this card, and doing the inner work, protecting your energy, and walking away from the chaos, right? So not getting caught up into this sort of frequency. And it's not to say this is not bypassing or anything like that. It's like choose your battles wisely, but the more you are centered in yourself, the more you will know what battles are worth your energy and what are not. So that's the advice from the cards.
Yeah, beautiful. That's perfect. Yeah, great. Thank you for
Yeah.
doing that. And where can people find you, or if they want to work with you, how can they connect with you?
Okay, so my website, all my offerings are on my website, which is www.yvonnepower.com. So YVONNEPOWER.com. Yeah, so you can book. I do coaching sessions with astrology and tarot. So doing deep dives into career, life purpose, relationships. I also do 1 hour tarot readings and birth chart readings and energy healing. I do inner child. I have a standalone inner child healing program, and I also have a holistic program as well, which I sort of do psycho spiritual coaching, helping people to connect into that side of themselves and start them off on their inner healing journey as well. But that's kind of understanding their psychology and getting more rooted in spirituality as well. Um, and also, I have my own natural skincare business as well. And I have, as I said, my own jewelry, sacred jewelry collection. But they're all on that web. The links are all on that website, yvonnepower.com.
Yeah, but I'll link it all below anyway, so
Brilliant.
people can book through there. But
Thank
thank you
you.
so much for coming on today and sharing your journey. It's been an
Thank
just
you.
amazing to hear it, and I know it's going to help so many people. And yeah,
Um,
and so thank you everybody for watching, and please do like and subscribe and comment and share this with anybody else who's just starting off on their divine awakening journey, and this will definitely help them. So thank you everybody for being here and watching. Have a blessed day.